Many female entrepreneurs come to me and they say that they feel anxious about not having enough money, not having enough money to be able to hire help, to be feel confident, to feel safe, to feel secure. And when I ask them how much is enough, what is that in number? What does enough mean to them? I often get this vacant blank stare and a little bit of like uncomfortable shuffling in their seats because they don't really know what the answer to that question is. And the problem I see, if we don't know what that number is, if we don't know what enough is, we're never going to get there. We're never going to be able to achieve it or move towards it. And we're always going to stay stuck, feeling stressed and anxious and starting to catastrophize that there just never is enough. So if I was to ask you right now, what is that number? What for you? What does enough mean to you? What would you say? Would you know? Would you be able to tell me the answer straight away? And if you can, then that is amazing. And I am so incredibly pleased for you. That is amazing. Or does that question kind of make your skin crawl? Do you feel uncomfortable in your seat? Do you kind of want to like look the other way and turn this video off and not really think about it again? Or do you say things to yourself like numbers just aren't my thing? I'm a creative, I'm an artist. And you use that kind of justification to rationalize why you avoid numbers like the plague. Well, if that is you, that is what we're diving into today on today's episode of Money Doesn't Have to Be Stressful, the weekly show for female entrepreneurs who love doing meaningful work out there in the world, but often struggle with that money piece of entrepreneurship. And I'm your host, Laura Cook. So the first piece we're going to dive into is really the mindset piece. So why is it that you haven't identified what that number is? So what does enough mean to you? Because if you think about it, it's the equivalent of you signing up for a competitive running race and not knowing if you signed up for a 5K run or a really intense Ironman. And so you have no idea how much training you need to do to make sure you can do that race without risking injury to yourself physically. And it's just the same with money. If we don't know how much is enough for us to be comfortably able to pay ourselves and pay our business, we risk injuring ourselves financially through our business and through our personal life, and potentially financially risking our family's future. And so when we buy into this belief that there isn't enough and we don't know there's enough, we're really buying into that scarcity mindset. And when things like unexpected bills pop up or we get a parking fine, it all just reconfirms that there just isn't enough for us. And so what we really do need to do is just pull up our big girl pants. And we need to really face the shadow and face the numbers head on. And we want to find a way to do that as smoothly and as easily as possible so that we can minimize how much resistance there is there for us to do that. Because often what we've done is we've bought into this idea that we should only do what feels right and what feels good to us. And often for many of us, looking at the finer details and the intricacy of the numbers and the analytics is just not our bag. And you know what? That is okay. But we need to admit that that's who we are, and we need to then consider how we handle the situation. So the next thing we need to consider is our practical side of things. And really, in order to be able to know what is enough for us, so that we really need to dive into some tracking, and we need to be able to track how much money comes in from our clients, how much money goes out to pay our bills, and how much do we personally need to pay ourselves. We need to know all those three pieces of the puzzle in order to really answer the question of what is enough, what is that number? And again, just like running the race, that you need to know how fit you are when you start. So once you've just signed up, how fit, how strong, how healthy are you? How long is the race going to be and how intense it's going to be? And from there, you can work out what is enough training so that you can get around the race without injuring yourself. We're not looking for a competitive time. We're just looking at how do you make sure you've done enough to not be injured. And so if numbers is really not your thing, if analytics really just kind of make you squirm, then I highly recommend you hire yourself a bookkeeper to do this for you. Somebody who absolutely loves diving into the detail, who gets so excited about an invoice, a box full of receipts and expenses just kind of shoved in, and that's like their idea of Christmas. That's the kind of person you need to help you with this. Otherwise, you are just going to drain your energy, waste so much time, procrastinate, and put all of this off. and never know what enough is for you, especially if you're creative and an artistic entrepreneur. So whether or not you're doing this yourself or you're going to get support with this, you really want to keep the tracking really simple. It really shouldn't be complicated. It shouldn't be difficult. It needs to be something that you can look at and you can easily understand what it says and what it means. And ideally, you kind of want to look back the last 3 to 6 months. But if you don't have that, if you haven't been tracking ever before, you haven't kind of kept things in good order, then just start today, because the sooner you start, the sooner you'll start to build up this information. And in order to make this really easy for you, I have developed a tracking tool for you. So like a calculator, so that you can easily plug in your numbers and it's going to tell you exactly what that number, what is enough for you, so that you then have that total clarity and ease around what that is going to be. So if you are interested in getting that tracker and that calculator, then you just need to hop on over into my Facebook community and join the Master Your Money Mindset Facebook group. And there will be information on how to access that tracker inside there. If you're already in there, then you will be easily able to access this, no problem. So the idea of defining what is enough, that we need to pull up our big girl pants and do that. Okay, we need to track, that makes sense. But how do we actually do this? How do we, like, this all sounds really good in theory, but we're still quite resistant to this. And that is often the case for most people. This can intellectually make a lot of sense, but there's often just so much resistance that we don't really get started. And that's why I want you to consider how you can make this experience as pleasurable as possible. So I want you to think about setting yourself a money date. So it's like taking yourself on a date with money. And when you go on a date, you would dress up nicely, you would do your hair nicely, you would put your perfume and your makeup on, and you would feel really good about yourself. You might go to your favorite cafe or restaurant, and you can do that there. You don't have to do this in your home office. You don't have to go to your bookkeeper's offices. You can find a location which is somewhere pleasurable that you enjoy, and it will really help make the experience so much more enjoyable for you, because you will look forward to going there, even if you may not be totally looking forward to actually looking at the numbers. But really, the important thing here is to think about, how do you make this as enjoyable an experience as possible? And how do you feel good about yourself whilst doing it as possible? Now, I really know that you can do this, that this is possible. And I promise you that the relief you will feel once you've done this, once you have the clarity of what the number is for you, what enough actually means to you, will be so incredibly worthwhile. So I highly recommend you head on over and you get the calculator and the tracker, and you put a date in your diary as to when you're going to do this, whether it's weekly or it's monthly, and you do it yourself or you get the support of a bookkeeper. Highly recommend you book those into your diary right now and get started. So if you have really loved today's conversation, then you're really keen to continue and dive deeper into this topic, or you're really keen to get hold of the tracker, then do hop on over to the Master Your Money Mindset Facebook group, where you can find that information, and I'll be right there with you to support you. And aside from that, I will be back here next Thursday for our next show of Money Doesn't Have to Be Stressful, where we will take this topic a little bit further. So today we've dived into, how do you define what enough is to you? Next week, we're going to take this one step further and look at what is possible for you. So until then, have a great week, and I can't wait to see you again until next Thursday. Bye.